After 4 years of dating and 3 years of marriage, my husband fell for a female subordinate. I pretended not to know, playing the role of a gentle and naive wife while spending his money to find playful boys to cheer myself up. When things came to light, he knelt at my feet, crying and pleading, "Don't divorce me. What you feel for him is just a fleeting thrill, it's not love at all." Kevin must think he's been hiding it well. But the truth is, everything leaves traces. It started with his irregular working hours. Every time I called, he always said he was working late. Then there were the moments when he would smile at his phone without realizing it, and as soon as I got close, he'd quickly close the screen. During our meals together, he often seemed to zone out unexpectedly. He suddenly developed new interests, changes in his speech style, new favorite foods, and other abstract preferences. He lost interest in things we had once agreed on. In light of these abnormalities, the not-so-romantic Kevin started bringing me flowers and small gifts after work for a while, probably to cover up his guilt. It felt like a revival of young love, as if we were back in those passionate days at 18. But I knew that beneath the flowers, our relationship was like withering leaves, gradually heading toward decay. He had fallen for another woman, his friend's ex-girlfriend. A woman who was completely different from me, bright and flamboyant. Claire. I wasn't unfamiliar with Claire. The first time she entered my life was as Leo's girlfriend. A playboy who never brought women to meet his friends introduced us to her for the first time. She was special, otherwise, Leo wouldn't have drunk himself into a stupor every night after their breakup. The next time I saw her was in Kevin's office. She joined Kevin's company. Her impressive resume and outstanding abilities brought her closer to Kevin, making her his right-hand assistant. Not long after, my marriage hit a crisis. It was raining that morning. Before Kevin went to work, I struggled to get out of my warm bed. I yawned while tying his tie. He chuckled and wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes, saying, "If you're tired, just go back to sleep." I adjusted his collar and cuddled up to him, pouting, "I just want to hold you, we haven't had dinner together in days." Kevin pecked me on the cheek and said, "Once I finish this project, I'll take you on a nice vacation." "Don't go on vacation," I said, touching his chin. "Can you come back for dinner tonight?" "Tonight." He checked his schedule. "I have a dinner meeting, but I'll wrap it up early to be with you." "Okay." But he still stood me up. This wasn't the first time lately. I sat in the restaurant, calling Kevin. He answered the first call, his voice low and a bit apologetic. "Babe, I'm still tied up." "All right, I'll wait for you." Another hour passed. I sent messages that went unanswered, and after a long wait, Kevin finally called back. "Sorry, Fanny, can I be a bit later?" The tables next to me had been replaced by waves of new customers. Things never happen just once. I softly asked, "Are you really not able to come back?" He sounded a bit tipsy, soothing me quietly, "I still have a few things to wrap up. I'll be quick." "Forget it." I sighed with disappointment. "It's just dinner, it's not that important. Just drink a little less and come home early." Kevin felt guilty, saying, "I won't go to work tomorrow, I'll spend the day with you." I casually replied, I'll follow your lead." Claire has an Instagram account with over 1 million followers. She just posted a new update, a photo of herself, looking lazy and glamorous, holding a drink in front of the camera. The caption read, "A smart woman knows that a man isn't just a pet you keep around." The comments were full of compliments. I snorted in disdain. Kevin lied to me. Claire had just landed a big contract for the company, and they were celebrating tonight. He could have explained or invited me along, but Kevin chose neither. He thought I didn't know, but from the moment he started acting strange, I was fully aware of all his actions. Today is my birthday, it shouldn't be so unpleasant. I opened my contacts and sent a message, "Sweetheart, I got an order." The reply came almost instantly, "I'm on my way." I left the restaurant and sent my location, "Join me for dinner, and bring a cake along." "How many people is the cake for?" I replied, "Just you and me, it's my birthday today." Noah arrived half an hour later, holding a small cake and a bouquet of stunning flowers. He had a strikingly handsome face that easily drew attention when he stood there. I waved to him from the shadows, "I'm over here." Noah hurried over, his voice cheerful as he handed me the flowers, "I hope I'm not too late." "Happy birthday." I smiled slightly as I took them, "Thank you." He also ordered fruits and snacks. Once everything was set, Noah carefully arranged the table and placed candles on the cake. "Happy birthday, my angel." I snapped a photo and posted on social media, "Happy birthday, Fanny." Then I blew out the candles Noah lit. He looked stunned and anxiously said, "You haven't made a wish yet." "What wish?" I playfully smeared cream on his face, laughing, "The things you want, you achieve on your own, don't rely on stealing or hoping for divine intervention." He blushed and nodded, "You're right. In a marriage, fairness is important." Since Kevin chose to be with another woman on my birthday, naturally, someone would come to keep my lonely heart company. Noah is my sister's assistant in her art studio. A bright young man just starting out, he has a great face and a sunny personality. My sister's assessment of him is quite accurate, thoughtful, reliable, and practical. Though the last point is still up for debate, it doesn't stop me from thinking he's a charming boy. The day I discovered Kevin and Claire were involved, I spent a long time alone on the terrace of the art studio's rooftop. Noah brought up 2 bottles of wine and handed me one. "What's bothering you?" I popped the cap and took a sip. "My husband wants to cheat." He sat down beside me, shocked to the point of stuttering. "Really? Is that true?" "Just kidding." I clinked my bottle with his and casually asked, "Do you have worries?" Noah paused for a moment and jokingly said, "Of course, I worry about not having money." I laughed it off. This kid was wearing limited edition sneakers that you couldn't even buy with money. Later, as Kevin's behavior became more outrageous, I tested Noah one night after a few drinks. "Want to make a deal?" He agreed even more readily than I expected. Not long after I posted on social media, Kevin's call came in. "Fanny, where are you?" "On X Avenue." Kevin sounded frustrated and remorseful. "I can't believe I forgot your birthday." I took a spoonful of cake, teasing, "I was just about to plan a punishment for you when I get home." My fault, my fault. I'll take whatever punishment you give." Kevin apologized repeatedly. "Where are you?" "I'll come pick you up." I sent him my location. Noah sat across from me, his gaze hesitating on the table before he asked, "Is he still with someone else?" "Yeah, tonight's celebration is for that woman. He even forgot my birthday." Noah pursed his lips, trying hard to find words to comfort me. "Don't be sad." I finished the whole plate of cake. "I can't help but feel sad. I just had to bring you along to celebrate my birthday." Noah's face visibly reddened, but he still tried to maintain a calm demeanor. "I'm honored." When Kevin was about to arrive, I transferred some money to Noah. "Thanks for the cake, sweetheart." I hugged the flowers, "And this bouquet, I love it. Can I take it home?" Noah nodded. "Of course, it was meant for you." "Thank you for tonight," I said, ruffling his soft hair. "I'll come visit you in the studio again." He rarely showed irritation, pulling away from my hand. "Don't mess with my hair, I'm not a kid anymore." Kevin's car was parked at the station. He had called a driver to come, and Claire was sitting in the passenger seat. She greeted me with a relaxed smile. "Long time no see, Fanny." I nodded slightly while holding a bouquet. "Miss Claire." Then I opened the back door. Kevin was sitting inside, looking slightly tipsy with a flushed face. He glanced at the flowers in my arms and asked, "Who gave those to you?" I leaned on his shoulder and showed him the bouquet, saying, "Pretty, right?" "Very pretty," he replied, gently touching the delicate petals, then asked again, "Who gave them to you?" "A lovely friend of mine. I really like them." Kevin kissed my forehead and quietly apologized. "I'm sorry I forgot such an important day." "Well, your heart seems to be wandering off somewhere else." I poked him gently in the chest and complained softly, "I've been waiting for you with an empty stomach, and the staff at the restaurant looked at me like I was a fool." His eyes showed even more guilt. "You should have reminded me." "I don't want to." I leaned in closer to Kevin, whispering, "I want you to figure it out on your own and then make it up to me. If it weren't for someone else being available, I would have spent the night all alone." Kevin was already a bit drunk, holding my hand with unfocused eyes. "I'll make it up to you. Just tell me what you want." I climbed up to his neck and kissed him lightly on the cheek, hinting, "I want my husband." His breath quickened as he tightened his grip on my hand. "Fanny." Claire remained silent in the passenger seat. It wasn't until she got out of the car that she walked around to knock on the back window. Kevin and I were holding hands, and he leaned on my shoulder and fell asleep. Claire stood outside with her handbag, the night wind lifting her long hair. Fanny, Mr. Kevin drank quite a bit for the staff tonight. If you can, please make some hangover soup for him to drink before he sleeps, it will help him feel better in the morning. I sincerely thanked her. Thank you. I'll pass that on to our housekeeper. She's better at handling these little things. Her smile faded instantly. I said goodbye friendly. Drive carefully, Miss Claire. Good night. Claire forced a smile. Good night. Drinking for the staff? How many employees does the company have for the boss to drink for her? I pushed Kevin, who was sleeping beside me, and looked out at the swiftly passing night scenery, smirking silently. Silly woman, a dog that slips into someone else's home isn't worth keeping around. He can run freely, wanting to be someone else's dog. Once he runs away, don't think about coming back home. I brushed my fingers over the features of the man beside me. Kevin, you who betray me, a heart pierced by 1,000 arrows. It wasn't until the next day that he remembered to ask me, Fanny, who were you with last night? I was applying a face mask in front of the mirror, a boy from my sister's studio. Do you remember? He's tall and quite young. Kevin furrowed his brow, trying hard to recall, but I knew he wouldn't be able to. Because he hadn't been to my sister's studio in nearly a year. I shifted his focus. Can you spray some water on the bouquet for me? His train of thought interrupted. He nodded and did as I asked. As promised last night, today Kevin set aside all his work to spend time with me. Is it really okay? I frowned, feeling uneasy. Won't it interfere with your work? Kevin paused, then firmly replied, work is important, but it's not more important than my wife. Today I'll be with you, we can go wherever you want, as long as it makes you happy. Oh. I hugged him joyfully, you're just the best. He suddenly sighed, why are you so easily satisfied? I'm not easily satisfied. I never held back sweet words, because I love you, that's why your happiness is my priority. Fanny, you really don't have to feel that way. His eyes were warm, but his words were logical. I love you too, but a marriage is a partnership, and you should also prioritize yourself. I smiled at him, exactly. We're both a partnership and individuals, so what you have, I should have too. That's fair, right? Kevin didn't quite get the underlying meaning, but nodded along, sure. I told Kevin I wanted to go on vacation and had already picked the destination. He didn't ask where we were going. After arranging his work schedule, he set off with me. On the day of our departure, I posted 2 pictures of the plane tickets on social media. Honeymoon trip? Soon after, friends flooded my post with likes, commenting on how sweet our relationship still was after so many years. I turned off my phone and put on a sleep mask before the flight took off. We had planned a 7-day trip with 3 destinations. On the 4th day, Kevin and I finally reached the second stop. While he was swimming, his phone rang. I waved my phone at the pool's edge, call. He swam to the edge, popped his head out of the water, took off his goggles to glance at the caller ID, then said, just answer it. But it's your assistant, it's probably work-related. I wouldn't know what to say. After he got out of the water, I handed him the towel I had ready. Kevin took the phone, paused for a few seconds with his thumb hovering over the screen before finally answering, hello? He talked while drying his hair, walking toward the spacious terrace. The evening breeze carried away his voice. I lay back in the rocking chair, flipping through the hotel's menu, and after ordering, I logged on to IG. Claire had just posted, tonight, embracing new challenges. The picture was of a puppy looking determined. Fans commented asking her what the challenge was, and she replied, just something work-related. Fans praised her, saying, so dedicated. At dinner, Kevin seemed a bit distracted. I talked about our upcoming plans while he occasionally glanced at his phone. When he opened his phone for the 3rd time, I purposely stopped talking. Kevin noticed and pushed his phone aside, casually cutting my steak for me, asking nonchalantly, why did you suddenly stop? I propped my chin on my hand. You seem like you're not really listening, your attention is all on your phone. Is there some treasure hidden in there? The knife hesitated for a moment. He chuckled and slid his phone in front of me. There's something, but you can check if it's a treasure. My phone has treasures, but I won't show you. I took his phone, opened the camera, and smiled. Since we're here, let me take a pretty picture of my wife. As I lifted the phone, I asked him, Kevin, it's been a while since we took a photo together. He was never fond of facing the camera and looked a bit shy. Let's not. If he didn't want to, then fine. I pressed the shutter, capturing the moment of him cutting my steak. At 10 in the evening, Kevin and I were leaning together, watching a movie. His phone rang again. Kevin released me, stood up, and went outside to take the call. I watched the movie, not hearing a single line of dialogue. Almost 10 minutes later, Kevin returned to finish watching with me. At the end, I turned to him and asked, "Kevin, what was the movie about?" He hesitated for a moment and couldn't answer. I showed a distressed expression. I think I didn't understand it. I didn't understand either. Looks like we're both fools. He smiled faintly and ruffled my hair. In the end, this vacation plan didn't go as expected. Kevin hesitantly asked me, "Fanny, should we head back early?" I was carefully applying my face cream, confused. Why? The best part is still to come. He sat on the edge of the bed, his gaze wandering as if he had something on his mind he couldn't express. Did something happen at the company? I stood up and walked over to feel his forehead. You look really uneasy. Nothing happened. Kevin took my hand, his gaze finally settling on my face, smiling. So, what do you want to do next? I sat down beside him. Well, remember you said last year that you wanted to soak in a hot spring at the foot of the snowy mountains? I've got everything arranged. Next, we'll head to the South City to see the bonfire party, experience the local culture, then go for a snow mountain hike and soak in the hot springs. Just then, another call interrupted me. Seeing me frown, he silenced his phone. It's fine, keep going, he said. I lost my enthusiasm. You should answer it. What's the emergency? You keep getting calls. It's nothing urgent. His tone grew slightly serious, almost as if he was reassuring both me and himself. The company can survive without me for a bit. He pulled me into his arms. You haven't finished telling me what surprises you've planned. There are plenty. The next morning, however, Kevin said, Fanny, we might need to pause our travel plans. I looked at him, still half asleep. Why are we changing plans again? Claire, she was out drinking with the partners last night, and those guys got her drunk enough to land her in the hospital. I sat up. Is it serious? He pressed his lips together, frowning slightly. It's hard to explain over the phone. We should go back and check. Don't rush. Let's call and get more details first. I grabbed my phone to find Claire's number, but he held my hand down. Let's go back first. It was a firm and decisive choice. I don't want to go back. I pushed his hand away. I'm not a doctor or a nurse. What's the point? Just call and see how she is. If it's not serious, I'd still like to continue our trip. I felt a bit wronged. I've been planning this for months. Kevin stood there, trying to hide his true feelings. You have a point, but Claire is also doing this for the company. Given this situation, as the boss, we should check on her. I stopped arguing. You're right, Kevin. So, I let him go back alone. When I put him in the car, Kevin asked uncertainly, Are you really not coming back with me? We can always travel again later. If I skip this trip, I won't have the same mood next time. He couldn't convince me, so he finally said, I'll handle things back home. If it's not a big deal, I'll come back to join you. Kevin might not keep that promise, but I obediently replied, Okay, I'll wait for you. As the car drove away, I patted Noah. Cute boy, we're on. Want to have some fun? I bought Noah a plane ticket. He arrived in the afternoon, all excited and lively. Being young is great, he was full of energy. Dragging his suitcase didn't feel like a burden at all, he was ready to conquer the world. I walked slowly behind him with my hands in my pockets, laughing at his eagerness. Why are you walking so fast? Noah paused to wait for me, unabashedly happy. I'm just so excited. He said enthusiastically, we can make money and have fun. Where are we going next? We're heading to South City to see the bonfire party, experience the local culture, then go for a snow mountain hike and soak in the hot springs. I shared the plans I told Kevin without any changes. People can change, but the carefully arranged itinerary shouldn't. I touched my heart and wondered, is Kevin really that important? He is, but what matters more is my own happiness. When Kevin called, Noah and I had already reached our next destination. He was checking in at a guest house while I took the call in the yard. How's Claire doing? Kevin hesitated. The doctor said she needs to stay in the hospital for a few days to recover. At least it's nothing serious. I felt relieved. I was pretty worried. Fanny, he hesitated, should I buy you a ticket to come back? I'd rather not. Do you know where I am right now? I'm in South City. I told him excitedly. After you left, guess who I ran into? Who? My sister's friend from the art studio. We ended up traveling together. Kevin fell silent for a few seconds, probably trying to recall who that kid was. Not wanting him to dwell too long, I pouted, just give me a couple more days to have fun before I come back, okay? Like a child trying to persuade a parent. Kevin usually caved under my charm and softened his tone. Alright, just be careful. After hanging up, he transferred me a decent amount of money with a note, have fun, come back early. I sent him a kiss emoji, love you, hubby. Turning around, I found Noah standing behind me. He said, sister, your husband is really an unlucky guy. I nodded in agreement. Right? Claire ended up in the hospital after drinking for the company, and Kevin sent me money to enjoy the trip. How amusing. For the next 3 days and 2 nights, Noah and I had a blast. I took photos at every scenic spot. Whenever Kevin asked, I sent him updates. What did you do today? We're soaking in the hot springs. It's so nice. What's Kevin up to? Miss you. Kevin replied, don't play with your phone while in the water. He reminded me, don't soak for too long. Be careful not to catch a chill. Okay. I tossed my phone aside as the massage therapist asked from behind, is this pressure okay? Yeah, it's nice. I had enjoyed the hot springs yesterday, but since Kevin didn't ask, I didn't mention it. Noah dropped by with drinks and snacks. He had been eyeing the guesthouse owner's homemade rice wine all day. If it weren't for me, he would have finished it already. Noah drank while we watched a variety show, laughing uncontrollably. During the commercials, he handed me tissues to wipe away the tears of laughter from my eyes. He looked at the flight tickets. When are we heading back tomorrow? The plan was to leave tomorrow, but we haven't explored the ancient town yet. I'm not ready to leave. So? His eyes lit up. We're not going back tomorrow? Let's stay another day, I said, munching on some fruit. Since we're here, I want to make the most of it. That's what I said, but then I took a few scenic photos and posted on social media, homeward bound. Noah liked my post with a big smile, followed quickly by Kevin's like, and then Claire liked it too. I smiled, put my phone down, and accepted the rice wine Noah poured for me. I didn't really like the taste, and after 1 cup, I set it aside. The room was warm, and I drifted off on the sofa. It was just a light sleep when the noise from the show stopped. I felt Noah sit down beside me, staring intently. After a moment, he got up and went into the room, returning with a blanket to cover me. As he tucked it in around my neck, his hand gently brushed my face, as if testing the waters. But the next second, I opened my eyes. Noah looked momentarily flustered. I grabbed his wrist, and he looked like a puppy caught doing something wrong, softly calling my name, Fanny. I just stared at him, silent. Fanny. He called again, his earlier panic fading as our gazes locked, his eyes growing bolder. Do you plan on divorcing him? I stayed quiet. He gathered his courage and said, a man like that isn't worth it. I chuckled lightly and released my grip, beckoning him closer with my finger. Come here. Noah obediently leaned in, and I pinched his cheek. Do you remember how we first agreed? I paid you to come. If you're willing, great, if not, that's fine. The spark of excitement in his eyes instantly faded. As for my marriage, it's between him and me. No one else should interfere. I patted his head and gently coaxed, you should go to sleep now. Noah left, unable to hide his loneliness and sadness. But unfortunately, that had nothing to do with me. I pulled up the blanket and closed my eyes, sinking into a dream. Kevin picked me up at the airport, looking behind me. Where's your friend? They all went back. Why would they still be with him? Once in the car, I opened the glove compartment to grab some wet wipes. A strange black lipstick tube caught my eye. As soon as Kevin got into the car, I opened my hands to show him what was lying in my palm and asked, puzzled, Kevin, what is this? His hand, about to fasten his seatbelt, suddenly froze. I tossed the lipstick in my hand and teased, which woman is so bold? A hint of panic crossed Kevin's usually composed face. Why aren't you saying anything? I leaned in and playfully flicked his nose, saying, with that expression, it looks like I caught you doing something bad? His silence felt like a fine thread tightening around my neck. I gradually stopped smiling. The air inside the car felt thick and still. In the cramped space, I caught a glimpse of another side of him lurking at the edge of danger through his dark eyes. Kevin? Kevin lowered his eyelids, hiding the trace of anxiety well, and calmly replied, it's Claire's lipstick. Claire? He spun a half-true, half-false story right in front of me. I picked her up from the hospital yesterday. She said she was worried her family would notice her pale face, so she touched up her makeup in the car. She probably left it then. It's a misunderstanding. He raised his gaze again, observing every minute change in my expression. Fanny, do you trust me? I looked down at the lipstick in my hand, silent for a while. Fanny. Under his gaze, I tossed the lipstick back into the storage compartment and teased him, okay, I was just messing with you. Look at how scared you are. We've been together for so many years, how could I doubt you over something so trivial? I leaned over to kiss his cheek. You should worry more about whether someone's thinking about your wife. Kevin let out a relieved breath, sneering, let's see who dares. He pulled me in for a kiss, but I turned my head away with a laugh, pushing him gently. Enough of that, let's head home. Kevin played the role of the devoted husband for a good while. He'd come home right after work, canceling any social engagements he could. It was like he'd returned to his old self. But both of us knew that beneath the calm surface, there were turbulent undercurrents. He had a business trip coming up. While Kevin was playing on his computer, I was packing my suitcase and casually asked, how many people are going with you this time? Maybe 3? He listed names carelessly. That maybe felt quite ambiguous. The next day, as he was leaving, Claire was among the crowd. Kevin didn't explain, and I didn't ask. Before he left, I just asked, will you be back in time to spend Christmas with me? He pressed a kiss on my cheek and said, of course. While watching Noah's basketball game at the gym, I received a message from Kevin. He asked what I was doing, and I held up my phone. Noah had just dribbled past his opponent's defense, leaping to shoot the ball into the basket. Cheers erupted throughout the arena, and the spirited boy turned to search for me in the crowd. Ignoring the surrounding girls' cheers, he blew me a kiss with a big grin. The volume of the screams surged even higher. I sent the video to Kevin, honestly telling him, I'm watching a basketball game. After a while, Kevin replied casually, youth is good, full of energy. Yeah, I agreed. As soon as the game ended, Noah changed and hurried over to find me. I ruffled his damp hair. It's so cold, why didn't you dry it? He casually raked his fingers through his hair. Thinking of you waiting for me, I couldn't sit still. His teammates passed by and winked. Girlfriend, huh? Noah pretended to be serious and waved his hand. Go away, don't say nonsense. With no subject mentioned, his teammates laughed knowingly and walked off. Once they left, he leaned closer. Do I look good today? The best in the whole place. Noah grinned, his eyes crescent-shaped, and ran off to buy 2 cups of milk tea. He handed me a warm drink, testing the waters. Can I trade these 2 cups of milk tea for you to take me to the movies tomorrow? I showed Kevin, drank the kid's milk tea, and now I have to take him to the movies tomorrow. Kevin misunderstood and sent me some money instead. These kids are sharp. He also reminded me, don't eat too much junk food. Okay. The day before Christmas, Claire posted on Instagram. It was a group photo with both men and women. She and Kevin were sitting together, his hand resting casually behind her on the sofa, both looking at the camera with faint smiles. In her post, she added a cute emoji and wrote a caption with a touch of flirtation. The greatest joy for a worker is to mooch food and drink from the boss. Fans commented enviously, admiring her as a powerful woman in the world of fame and fortune. Several people in the photo were couples I knew well. We had shared meals and signed contracts during past collaborations with Kevin. Everyone was familiar with each other. She was out with 4 employees, but took Claire to a dinner that seemed like friends. How interesting. One lady, who I was quite close with, messaged me privately, hinting, "Your husband's subordinate is impressive." I was watching a movie with Noah and distractedly replied, "I heard he's a tough guy at the drinking table." She replied with a hint, "I'll go challenge her." When the movie ended, I received her disdainful message, "Not much, he got drunk after just a few drinks." Snow was gently falling from the sky, and Noah used the excuse of the small umbrella to walk closer to me. He secretly hooked my hand with his pinky finger. "Merry Christmas." I squeezed his finger. "That's tomorrow." I planned to get Noah a gift and decided on a watch after some thought. While choosing at the store, Kevin called. After chatting for a bit, I sent him a picture of the watch I had picked out. "Looks nice." "Nice," Kevin said, "but not my style." I just smiled and stayed silent. Since we had planned to spend the evening together, I let the nanny have the night off to cook for Kevin myself. Noah insisted on driving me. The dinner wasn't even for him, yet he was more particular about the dishes and ingredients than I was. I kicked his heel from behind. "I'm making dinner for Kevin, why are you so eager?" Noah turned back with a sample plate. "I don't care who I eat with, as long as you remember that I picked the food when you eat, I'm happy." "Wow, so clever." He brought a piece of steak to my mouth. "Try this." "Not bad." Noah casually wiped the corner of my mouth. "I make the best steak, I'll cook it for you next time." Before I could respond, a familiar voice came from behind. "Fanny?" Noah and I turned to see Leo standing not far away. Kevin's brother, Claire's ex. Yet tonight, he still hadn't returned. Kevin had made up a clumsy excuse to bail. I was tired and didn't even want to put on a pretense. After hanging up, Noah tried to comfort me, "If he's not coming back, I can keep you company." Light played across his youthful, handsome face. I studied him carefully. Noah was driving and trying hard to appear calm, though his ears were slightly flushed. "If you don't like it, I can go home." The message on my phone was still from Leo, "Better cut it off soon. You guys have had a long relationship. See, even an outsider understands this, but my husband doesn't." I scoffed at my phone, "Since you're here, let's have dinner together." That night, Claire was busy again and posted on Instagram. From her post, I learned why Kevin couldn't make it back tonight. The background was a hotel room, with a bowl of plain congee, a thermometer, and some stomach medicine visible in a bag. She wrote, "When a woman is at her weakest, if he can leave everything for you, what's more worth it than this?" In the background of the photo, there was a blurry silhouette of Kevin. Even if it were blurry, I could still recognize it. This is my husband. Plain congee and medicine, the tenderness and care I had given him all these years. After he learned to walk, he used all of it on another woman. Noah was wearing an apron, standing in the kitchen at my home, cooking steak. This is someone with a flair for romance, setting up a table full of food with an inviting atmosphere. I opened a bottle of red wine and toasted Kevin, "Happy holidays, Mr. Kevin." After we finished the meal, I handed Noah the gift I had prepared, "Happy holidays, kiddo." He was both surprised and delighted, jumping over to hug me, "Fanny." His overflowing joy almost surpassed the value of the gift itself. I chuckled and patted his head, but the next words I said pulled him from heaven back to earth. "After today, we won't be in touch. I'm planning to resolve things with him, Noah. It wouldn't be good to drag you into this later." Noah left with red-rimmed eyes. As I closed the door, I noticed a message from Kevin, "Are you having dinner with that boy again?" I didn't reply, took a shower, and set an alarm for the early morning. When the alarm went off in the dead of night, I sent Kevin an edited message. It was about a movie I watched, where childhood sweethearts grew to resent each other in middle age, and one cheats while the other dies by suicide. I told him I was really sad, sitting on the balcony thinking about how we cried ourselves to sleep, then called him. It rang a few times before I hung up, and right after that, my phone died as I lay down to sleep. Kevin, who said he wouldn't come back, returned that night. Just before dawn, I heard the front door open. He was frantically searching for me, shouting, "Fanny!" In the living room, master bedroom, balcony. The more he couldn't find me, the more panicked he became, and I could hear his voice losing control. Bang! He forcefully pushed open the last guest room door, slamming it against the wall. I was startled, peeking out from under the covers, pretending to be drowsy as I looked towards the door. "Kevin? Why are you back?" Before I could finish, he interrupted me. Kevin held me tightly, as if he wanted to embed me into his body. I let my hands hang down, acting surprised and confused. "What's wrong, Kevin? You scared me to death." He rubbed my back, his voice trembling as he repeatedly emphasized, "Fanny, you scared me to death." What happened? Kevin. I struggled a bit. "It hurts." Kevin released me, cupping my face and resting his forehead against mine. He stayed silent for a long time, trying to calm down. I feigned ignorance. "You're acting strange, Kevin." He took a long time to respond, hugging me as he asked, "You sent me those messages last night, and your phone died. I was worried something happened to you." "What messages?" I tried to recall. "I think I had too much to drink yesterday. I might have called you. Did I say something stupid while drunk?" I patted my head, rummaging through the blankets for my phone. "Oh, it's off?" Kevin examined my expression, visibly relieved. "You said you watched a movie and cried until you couldn't sleep." "Right, the movie." I touched my chest. I still feel awful. "I think I cried for a long time." "Oh, I haven't cleaned up the restaurant yet." I hurried to get out of bed, but he pulled me back by the waist. "I'll clean up the restaurant." Kevin gently touched my slightly puffy eyelids, scrutinizing me closely. He leaned his forehead against mine again, silent for a long time, then suddenly asked, "Fanny, do you have something you want to ask me?" "I do." I pushed him away and seriously said, looking into his eyes, "Kevin, you need to clean the wine glasses and bowls properly later." Things needed to come to a conclusion. But the opportunity shouldn't come from me. A few days later, that chance came from Leo. Maybe he heard something. When I heard Leo was coming to the company, I was at home watering plants. An assistant, hiding somewhere, called me, their voice low and filled with panic. "Mr. Leo is furious." Of course, Leo was furious. He had a good friend keep an eye on his ex-girlfriend at work to create an opportunity for reconciliation. Little did he know, his ex-girlfriend was becoming Kevin's girlfriend. I calmly wiped my hands, picked up my car keys, and headed to the company. The drive from the company to my home isn't long, just under 10 minutes, but Kevin takes over half an hour to get home each night. Better late than never. When I arrived, I just caught sight of Leo dragging Claire by the hand out of the corridor. He was furious. "If you don't give me an explanation today, don't expect me to let you off the hook." Claire was pushing him away, screaming and struggling. "What's wrong with you? Get off me, we broke up ages ago." Kevin chased out from the office. "Leo, calm down." That statement completely ignited Leo's emotions. "What the hell is calm?" He released Claire and lunged at Kevin, throwing punches. "Did you think of me as a friend? I asked you to take care of her, not to sleep with her." After dodging twice, Kevin finally lost his temper and retaliated. "Stop talking nonsense here. Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, you both know in your hearts." The two of them got into a brawl, and not a single person in the crowd dared to step in. Leo, like a madman, hit hard, and in their scuffle, they knocked over a nearby cabinet. Things crashed to the ground, hitting them, forcing the two tangled together to separate. Leo spat out blood, wiped his mouth harshly, and coldly watched as Claire panicked and rushed towards Kevin. She knelt on the ground, cradling Kevin's injured hand, her voice losing color with fright. "Where is it hurt? Where is it hurt?" Crimson blood flowed down between her fingers. I tapped an employee in front of me, and they turned around, their eyes widening in surprise as they instinctively made way for me. From the crowd, someone said, "Fanny's here." Kevin suddenly looked up, covering his wound. On the way to the hospital, neither of us spoke. The emergency room was crowded, and after the doctor examined Kevin's wound, he said it needed to be cleaned and stitched. As the nurse treated him, Kevin held in his pain, not daring to cry out even as sweat formed on his forehead. I sat next to him, playing with my phone when Noah's message popped up. Noah, I got into a car accident. There were photos from the accident scene, with parts scattered everywhere, looking quite severe. I felt my heart drop, got up, and moved aside to call, "Where are you? Are you okay?" Noah's voice was weak. "I see you. I'm in the emergency room lobby, can you come see me?" I hurriedly walked out, hearing Kevin's pained groan behind me but didn't stop. The nurse shouted, "Don't move during the stitches." Kevin ignored it, panicking as he called out to me, "Fanny, where are you going?" "My friend got into a car accident, and he's here. I'm going to check on him." I rushed out without looking back. Kevin didn't dare to stop me. When I found Noah, whole and intact, in the emergency room lobby, I sighed in relief. He was sitting in a chair, looking down at his phone, his clothes torn in several places, revealing bloodied wounds that hadn't been treated. "Noah." I called out to him. When he looked up, I noticed a scratch on his beautiful face. As soon as he saw me, he put his phone away, pouting like a child and pointing at his bloodied knee. "It hurts." "How did you get hurt like this?" "I was on a friend's electric bike, and that idiot crashed into someone." Noah grabbed my wrist and wrapped his other arm around my waist, burying his head into my abdomen, whining pitifully, "Please help me, it really hurts a lot." I touched his head, about to speak, when I heard a very faint voice behind me, calling my name. "Fanny?" Kevin was standing there, stunned, watching us. His gaze slowly moved from Noah holding my hand up to my face, his complexion gradually paling. "Fanny, who is he? Who is he?" This question was interesting. I casually replied to Kevin, "Friend." Noah was dealing with his injuries, trembling from the pain. Maybe it hurt too much, he didn't care about the crowd, pulling my hand over, burying his face in my palm, softly whimpering, "Sister, it hurts, it really hurts." My palm was damp, but I didn't pull away, gently patting his back to comfort him. Kevin stood silently beside us, like a statue. This silence lasted from the hospital to when we got home. As I bent down to change my shoes, he stepped ahead of me and took the slippers out of the cupboard, placing them in front of me. Kevin knelt partially to help me switch shoes, and that position reminded me of our wedding day. He was also kneeling like this in front of me, putting on my wedding shoes. Once I had my shoes on, Kevin didn't let go. "Fanny." His warm finger rested on my ankle. "Who was that guy at the hospital?" "Didn't I tell you? Just a friend." I pulled my foot away from his grasp and stepped into the room. Just a couple of steps in, Kevin grabbed my arm. "A friend?" He could no longer hold back, his brow furrowed, eyes dark and voice mocking. "Which friend? I've never heard of or seen him." I found it amusing and reminded him seriously, "How could you not know? I must have mentioned him to you more than once. He's just a kid from my sister's studio." "Kevin, you really don't remember?" "Does he really not remember?" Kevin lowered his gaze, trying to recall. His memory was usually quite good. Some things he forgot were just because he hadn't cared enough. Kevin murmured the words, "The kid from the studio?" With the term coming up frequently from his own mouth, he could easily connect it to the contexts in which he had heard it. Those memories he had overlooked would surely start resurfacing bit by bit in his mind. I watched his expression grow increasingly stiff. He slowly raised his eyes, the muscles in his cheeks twitching. "So, the boy you often mention is him? A boy of this age? The one who brought you flowers for your birthday, who traveled with you, is he?" I could see the desperate hope in his eyes that I would deny it. I calmly admitted, "Yes." Kevin instinctively released me, stepping back a couple of paces, gripping the shoe cabinet so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His chest heaved violently, as if he found the situation utterly absurd, and he couldn't help but let out a couple of cold laughs. After a few seconds, Kevin reached for a cigarette in his pocket. His hands trembled, he tried to pull it out several times, but couldn't. As if recalling something, he swallowed hard and hoarsely asked, "Was it him who played basketball? The one who went to the movies, on Christmas?" "Kevin, I've never hidden anything from you." The overwhelming shock made him momentarily lose his ability to think. Kevin looked dazed, staring down as if lost in thought, letting the cigarette box slip from his grip and fall to the ground. He stared at the box for a few seconds before suddenly exploding, grabbing my shoulders and pinning me against the wall, his eyes red with fury as he shouted, "You're my wife. My wife. When you were with him, did you think about your marriage? Did you think about me? Fanny. Do you even know what you're doing? I looked calmly at his pained expression, watching as he lost control and tears fell. A tremendous feeling of revenge surged from deep in my chest, intertwined with pain. I was all too familiar with that anguished expression. It was the collapse of years of trust, the bewilderment of betrayal by a partner, the piercing sword from a lover who had changed. It was hatred, a deep resentment and disbelief. I softly asked, "And what about you, Kevin? When you were with someone else, did you think of me?" Pushing aside his stiff body, I opened the nearby cabinet and pulled out a thick envelope, throwing it in front of him. Countless photos slipped out. Each one was crystal clear, featuring him and Claire. In various settings, their intimacy went beyond just a superior-subordinate relationship. There was my birthday, when Claire and he got into the car sitting side by side in the back, only switching to front and back seats when they arrived. During the trip, he abandoned me to go take care of Claire, tucking her hair behind her ear while she was eating. The day before I came back, he picked Claire up from the hospital. Inside the car, their body language was ambiguous, and later I found the lipstick in the storage compartment. On the eve of Christmas, he took Claire to a party, draping his coat over the drunken woman as they returned to the hotel. Photos were scattered all over the floor. Kevin slowly crouched down to pick them up, but I also crouched down, pressing my hand over his, spreading the stacked photos apart and gently asking him, "Kevin, can you tell me what these are? You ask me if I trust you? I've always trusted you, but you tell me what these things are? Are they a boss and subordinate? An ex-girlfriend of a friend? Or just normal hand-holding social interactions?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Do you really not know you're married?" Laughing, I began to cry. "How is this fair? Did I ever hide anything from you about that boy? Have I never mentioned him? Kevin, think harder. He just held my hand because he couldn't bear it. Does that upset you? When you left me alone, when you told me you couldn't make it back, when you were lying to me, did you think about me? Did you think about our marriage, about all those years we spent together?" I swept the photos off the floor. "Kevin, you've made me look like a fool." Only after laying everything bare, did I realize. He could have chosen not to be so busy, not to be tied up at work, and still handle various affairs without being at the office. If he wanted to, there were no calls he couldn't make. If he wanted to, he could avoid all those endless social dinners. He could even stay at home like I did, cooking and cleaning. The absurd thing was that these changes could happen overnight. Kevin had curled up on the living room sofa for 2 days. When I came out of the bedroom, he had just finished cooking lunch and was bringing hot soup to the table. "Fanny." I walked toward the entrance without looking at him. He hurried after me, speaking in a low, submissive voice, "Can we eat together? I made your favorite dishes." Seeing that I didn't respond, he continued talking to himself behind me. "Even if you're angry, don't hurt your body. You haven't eaten much in 2 days. Fanny." I coldly refused, opening the shoe cabinet door. "No need, I'm going out." He asked, "Where are you going?" "To the hospital." Kevin rushed in front of me, his expression tense as he looked me up and down. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" I frowned and pushed him away. "No." He tentatively suggested, "Can I go with you?" I didn't respond, changed my shoes, grabbed my bag, and walked out the door. Kevin grabbed the car keys and hurried after me. I went to visit Noah at the hospital. This kid had been crying in pain on WeChat for 2 days. Kevin had no idea, following closely behind me to the ward, before guessing what I was there for. Before pushing the ward door open, he held my wrist tightly, his voice strained. "You are here to see him? Is that a problem?" He stared at me in shock, paused for a moment, and then slowly released his grip, forcing a smile. "No." When I walked in, Noah was half sitting up in the hospital bed. The nurse was setting up lunch on the table. When he saw me enter, his eyes lit up with joy. "Fanny." But as soon as he noticed Kevin entering behind me, the spark in his eyes dimmed. "How are you? Feeling any better?" Noah showed me his injury, looking miserable. "It still hurts a lot." The gruesome wounds were scabbed over, but still red and swollen. The nurse stepped out to take a phone call. The weather was cold, and the food cooled quickly. I asked him, "Why aren't you eating?" Noah placed his scabbed hands in front of me. "The nurse has been feeding me these past 2 days. She might not be back anytime soon." After a pause, Noah bit his lip and shyly added, "But I'm really hungry." Looking at the tableware, I asked, "Do you need help?" He looked pleasantly surprised. "If you could, that would be great." After saying that, he looked at Kevin, cautiously asking, "Fanny feeding me, you wouldn't mind, right?" Kevin silently stared at him, his jaw tightly clenched. I rolled up my sleeves and sat down. Just as I picked up the bowl, a hand landed on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw Kevin forcing a smile. "How about I do it?" Noah blinked. "Huh? Then I'll bother you." In this lifetime, there are only a handful of people Kevin would serve. I wonder if he fed Claire like this when she was in the hospital. I sit nearby, watching him shovel food into Noah like a mother bird feeding her chick. After just a few bites, Noah turns his head away and starts coughing, patting his chest. Kevin puts down the bowl, takes a deep breath, and lifts the soup again, trying to spoon-feed Noah. As the food enters his mouth, Noah's eyes suddenly widen in pain, and he quickly turns to look for a trash can. I quickly grab a few tissues and hand them to him. "Spit it out." Noah, without thinking, uses my hand to throw up. Tears well up in his eyes, looking both pitiful and guilty. "I'm sorry for getting your hands dirty. It was really too hot." Then he glances at Kevin and adds softly, "I believe he didn't mean to." Kevin's lips twitch, suppressing his anger while forcing a smile. I switch places with Noah and feed him the rest of his meal. As I leave, Noah hesitantly asks, "Can you come again tomorrow?" I don't answer, just tuck him in. "Rest well and get out of the hospital soon." Kevin stands beside me, his gaze cold and the atmosphere around him tense. After getting into the car, he sits for a long time without starting the engine. I lean back and close my eyes, trying to relax, when I hear him call my name softly, trying to explain. "Fanny." The soup wasn't hot. The bowl was warm when I served it. "I know." He reaches out to touch me. I didn't realize it would be so hot when it went in. Seeing that I don't pull away, Kevin tentatively takes my hand. "Can we talk?" "Please, let's talk." "What about?" I open my eyes. "About you and Claire?" He can't meet my gaze. "I was wrong, I messed up. Fanny, I'm sorry." He cups my hands in his, resting his forehead against them, pleading. "I was wrong. Give me a chance to make it right. Just give me a chance to explain, please." I lift my hand to brush aside his hair, looking into his bloodshot eyes. "Kevin, I need you to answer a few questions." A glimmer of hope sparks in his eyes, and his chapped lips meet in a firm line. "Okay. When did it start between you and her?" Kevin swallows hard. "Maybe, about 3 months ago." "How long were you together?" "We weren't together. I swear." He explains in a panic. "I didn't have a relationship with her." "Do you love her?" Kevin shakes his head more urgently, speaking in a rush. "No, I was confused, it was my fault. I should die for being so stupid. I love you, Fanny. You're the only one I love." "What are you going to do about her?" "I'll let her go. I won't see her again or have any contact. I swear I won't have any unclear relationships with her or any other woman." I pause for a moment, gripping his chin to lift his face. "Kevin, the last question. Did you sleep with her?" His gaze flickers for a moment, then he presses his lips together and firmly tells me, "No." "You didn't sleep with her?" "Please believe me one more time. I promise I won't mess up again." He's lying to me, he's still lying to me. "Kevin, don't you know that a man's eyes can lie the best and tell the truth the least?" I lightly touch his face, suppressing my anger. "You said it yourself, anyone who deceives me deserves to die." He opens his arms tightly around me, trembling with emotion. "Fanny, you're the most important person to me. Don't leave me. Don't look at anyone else. I promise I won't mess up again, I won't lie to you. Will you believe me one more time? Just one more time." I let my hands fall, whispering, "Kevin, this is your last chance." After admitting his mistake, he immediately shows his willingness to let me handle everything. I fired Claire and had HR inform her to leave immediately. After Leo's outburst at the company, everyone knew about her and Kevin. My assistant told me she was very unwilling to leave. But how could she not be? A man who liked her betrayed his girlfriend of 7 years for her. He treated her differently, indulged her, deceived his wife for her, and even came running, leaving everything behind. In public, he had no qualms about their affair, sharing the thrill of flirting with Taboo. Such affection could make anyone dizzy, thinking they were special. But when the truth came out, Kevin discarded her without hesitation. He raised her high, then smashed her down. She still didn't understand this man. Claire kept calling and messaging Kevin. He hung up in front of me and blocked all her contacts. He placed his unprotected phone in front of me, trying to prove his loyalty, flattering me. "Fanny, you can check my phone anytime." I didn't touch it. I had never checked his phone from start to finish. Trust is like paper, it can't be restored once it's torn. Once the seeds of doubt take root in the heart, they're impossible to remove. If Claire were smart, she wouldn't have tried to test Kevin's feelings for her at this moment. It would only lead to her despair. If our 7 years of love could be easily shattered, what could their feelings withstand? The most unreliable thing to gamble on in this world is the human heart. If she doesn't relent, she must bear the consequences of her actions. I gathered all the photos of Claire and Kevin and delivered them to her parents myself. Her parents politely welcomed me in, but their expressions changed drastically when they heard my purpose, their eyes filled with suspicion. They couldn't believe their daughter would interfere in someone else's family, insisting it must be a misunderstanding. Until I presented the evidence in front of them, they had to accept it. I said, "Your daughter is talented, and her abilities should be used for her career, not to hurt others' families, destroy their marriages, and then cling on even after it's over. We're all adults. While not everyone has to be moral, after so many years of schooling, at least one should understand what it means to have self-respect and dignity." Before I left, I placed the transparent bag with the photos on the coffee table. "As for the matters between my husband and me, we will handle it ourselves. Please keep your daughter in check and don't let her disturb me again. It's essential to know one's place. I'm sorry for the disturbance." Faced with the solid evidence, the two elderly parents sat there, flustered and red-faced, almost at a loss for words. Kevin was waiting downstairs, and when I came down, I saw a pile of cigarette butts scattered near the car. "Kevin," I asked him, "do you think I'm being too harsh?" He tossed the cigarette he was holding onto the ground and stomped it out, speaking bitterly. "The one being harsh is me. I shouldn't have made you face this." For the first time, I spoke openly about my feelings to him. "Kevin, I hate it so much. I hate how your love is as fragile as paper, and how your loyalty is so easily shaken. Fanny." He rubbed his face, his eyes reddening. "I won't do this again, I promise." During this time, he came home late and left early almost every day. He voluntarily updated me on his whereabouts, cooked for me every evening, and surprised me with gifts and flowers. I didn't ask or say anything, I didn't refuse. He tried hard to mend the rift between us through his efforts. It turns out that it takes the other half's mistakes to stir up a calm and stable relationship. It's both sad and laughable. That night, after delivering the photos, Claire called me. I hung up but didn't block her number. I didn't look at any of the messages she sent, nor did I pay attention to the private messages from her IG account. By the third day, she called again. When the call came in, Kevin was in the kitchen cooking. He turned back and asked, "Fanny, is it okay to make the ribs sweet and sour?" I leaned against the dining chair, replying lightly, "Sure." Then I added, "Claire called." Clatter. He hurriedly picked up the things that had fallen to the floor. Kevin turned off the stove and hurried out, glancing at my phone, which was ringing incessantly. He looked tense. "Fanny, just ignore her. This needs an ending," I said, pointing to the seat across from me. "If you want to listen, I have only one rule, no matter what she says, you can't make a sound." He hesitated, then nodded. "All right. Kevin, if you break your word, we're done." His breathing quickened, and he grew pale. "Okay. I answered the call and put it on speaker. Silence from the other end, then Claire's voice came through. Fanny. What do you want? Her voice was slurred, like she'd been drinking. So, your man's back. Happy? What does that have to do with you? Claire let out a mocking laugh. Calm down. I just want to talk, ask a few questions. He won't pick up when I call. Men are heartless, once they're done, they're really done. She gave a sneering chuckle. I envy you, such an open-minded woman. Would you forgive him for anything as long as he came back? I looked down at the screen. Miss Claire, I've been with him for years. Oh, I know. What, 6 or 7 years? She laughed again. That's a long relationship. And I hear it's been loving, too. I have a question. Could you ask Kevin something for me? Why did he get involved with me? Was it the thrill of sneaking around, or did he ever actually like me? Across from me, Kevin's face tightened, his breathing heavy. Despite the winter chill, beads of sweat dotted his forehead. I asked, does it matter? Drunk and teary, Claire's voice grew pitiful. Of course it matters. Ask him why he started this with me if he had the nerve to come after me. Why did he dump me the minute things got complicated? Her voice shook with resentment. I've lost everything, while he gets to waltz back home like nothing happened. Kevin squirmed, unable to stay still, attempting to speak, but I shot him a sharp look, and he fell silent. We continued listening as Claire spiraled. Fanny, do you think dealing with me is the solution? Think you'll be free of worries? There'll always be another woman, she taunted viciously. Can you fight them all off? She sneered, and when you kiss him, does it really not bother you that he's been with me? Kevin couldn't sit any longer. He stood, shouting, Claire. I swiftly took the phone from him, meeting his gaze, and firmly told Claire, Kevin says he was never with you. She went silent, then burst into mocking laughter. Oh, not with me? Sure. She spoke with vicious satisfaction. We did everything but that last step, so it doesn't count, right? Her voice turned vindictive. Kevin, if you're a real man, tell your wife what we did that night at the hotel. What's 6 or 7 years when I can get you with a single look? She laughed wildly, both taunting and gleeful. Men like Leo, Kevin, they're all the same. Pathetic. The line suddenly went dead. My phone clattered to the floor. The room fell into a chilling silence. Fanny. Kevin got up, walked around the table, and collapsed to his knees before me. Fanny. I laughed bitterly. What did you tell me? That it didn't count as cheating? So, as long as it wasn't all the way, it doesn't count? Forgive me, please forgive me, he clung to my legs, desperate and terrified. Please, forgive me. You said liars don't deserve peace, didn't you? How can I forgive you? I held his face. How? Then I slapped him hard. Tell me. How do I forgive this repeated betrayal? Kevin's head jerked to the side, and, like a guilty child, he sobbed. I swear, there's no more lies. I'll never make this mistake again. Why should I believe you? I've given you more than one chance. Fanny, he croaked, voice hoarse with tears, I didn't dare tell you because I was afraid of losing you. I raised my hand and slapped him again. Then how did you dare do it? When you were lying, when you were deceiving me, when you ran to her, why then did you have the courage? If she was that important, why didn't you choose her? Kevin clung to my legs, letting me hit him, refusing to let go. I said, you dare to cheat but can't bring yourself to divorce. What is it? You think I'd never leave? Or that I'm too blind to see? No, it's not that. Fanny, I'm sorry. He repeated himself like a broken record. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. What gives you the right to even say forgive? I slapped him twice more, bitter laughter mixing with tears. After everything, forgive you? What if I go find someone else and do the same thing? Could you forgive me? I shoved him away, shouting, what if I go out and get close to someone else, as long as I don't take it all the way, could you forgive me? Kevin couldn't answer. Then let the hypothetical become real. My sister was leading a team to a competition in Haicheng, and Noah, recently discharged from the hospital, was going along. Before leaving, I grabbed my luggage and joined them. Last time, I had seen Kevin off with Claire. This time, he was seeing me off with Noah. Kevin hadn't slept in days, looking disheveled, his eyes bloodshot and weary. In stark contrast stood Noah, youthful and lively, a few feet away. Who says only men face temptation in marriage? Kevin seemed to know it, rubbing his face as he stayed in the car. He said only, "Let me know you arrived safely." I took my luggage and walked away, moving toward the morning light. On this trip to Haicheng, I carried on with all my activities, attending every event as usual. In every public photo, I didn't bother to keep a deliberate distance from Noah. I recreated Kevin's actions with Claire, letting him know that it was intentional. Noah, for one, was delighted. In every photo, his smile was genuine, brimming with joy. He didn't mind being used, didn't even want anything in return. He called it righting a wrong. When Noah looked at me, he only saw me. He'd say, "As long as you're happy." Who doesn't like sweet words? It doesn't have to be from just one person to be meaningful. As things escalated, Kevin grew as silent as the grave. But I knew he was tracking my every move. One day, my sister handed me a room key, asking casually, "Are you really leaving him?" "What else? Keeping him as a trophy?" I took the key. "What, are you here to talk me out of it?" She gave a small smile. The beauty of a partner is in the happiness they provide. If he can't do that, then he's nothing. At 9 that evening, Noah showed up, looking dashing and even wearing cologne. Poetic justice. I had to ask, "Do you even realize why I invited you here?" He plopped down on the sofa. "Of course. To get revenge on a jerk." He grinned, unbuttoning his shirt with enthusiasm. "How should I go about it? All the way or halfway?" I sat beside him, silent for a moment. "Put your shirt back on, you don't want to be shirtless when things get physical." He stopped mid-unbutton, slightly disappointed, then asked, "If things get rough, would you back me up?" "Yes." Hearing that, he brightened again. "I sent Kevin our room number. If you can come tonight and still forgive me, still trust me like before, then we don't have to end things." After sending the message, I turned off my phone. I gave him the room number, but didn't tell him the hotel name. The city is so vast, and Kevin really wants to salvage this marriage. He could search through each hotel one by one. If he moves fast enough, he might find me before dawn. This night is long enough for him to repeatedly wonder if his wife would betray him. Would she have ever acted recklessly out of revenge, just like he did? Only by comparing himself to her can he understand how difficult it is to utter the word forgive. Everything I've been through, if Kevin doesn't experience it all himself, how can he grasp what it truly means to empathize? Until the knife cuts into one's own flesh, one can never understand the meaning of pain. Noah's eyes are wide open, transitioning from eagerly waiting for Kevin's arrival to battling sleep and drifting off unknowingly. Outside, it's lightly snowing, and a few cars occasionally pass by the quiet road. I stay awake until dawn. At around 6:20 in the morning, there's a knock on the hotel door. First, it's gentle, then it turns into a forceful pounding. Noah, bleary-eyed, pokes his head out from under the covers, exclaiming, "How did I fall asleep?" He looks out the window. "Is it already dawn?" "Yeah," I reply, my eyes glued to the computer screen as I meticulously review the editing content. Thanks to her, I now have so much evidence of Kevin's infidelity. She has a secret IG account, where she sent me countless messages, including several photos taken from intimate angles with Kevin, eating together, holding hands, even a shot of him dozing off on her shoulder, and a clear side profile of him from that Christmas night in the hotel. He's still wearing his wedding ring, dressed in clothes I bought, carefully taking care of another woman. Claire's intention in sending these was to retaliate for my confrontation with her parents, hoping to make me feel as miserable as she does. All this, including the veiled insinuations in her main IG account and the phone call she made to me, will ultimately serve as evidence against both of them. By feelings, morals, and law, neither of them can gain any advantage. She really isn't very smart. As a social media influencer, she thinks that'll make her truly popular in this circle. After hitting post, I can still hear the knocking outside, each knock more urgent than the last. I get up to walk outside, and Noah steps off the bed, tentatively blocking my way. Is that all, just for show? Noah, if I were to actually sleep with you out of revenge, how would that make me different from Kevin? From the beginning, I wanted Kevin to feel the same pain I do, not to seek relief in another man's arms. He drops his hands, I get it. I open the door, and the man standing outside looks like a defeated lion. His gaze falls behind me, his expression one of despair. Thanks to the ripple effects on social media, news of Kevin and Claire's affair spread rapidly. Because of the image Claire cultivated online, she had gained a bit of fame in niche circles, a sexy, genuine woman who gives emotional counseling while being the mistress of a married man. Her persona has crumbled completely. As the news broke, even the elders at home found out about it. Both families gathered, and Kevin knelt on the ground, silent as his father struck him with a stick. His mother cried as she held her son, berating him. What were you thinking? You went to such lengths to chase after Fanny, didn't you? We sat quietly nearby, observing without saying a word. They all knew once I made a decision, it wouldn't change. Kevin also understood, still clinging to a shred of hope, unwilling to accept divorce. I had him move out to start our separation, and I saw his car parked downstairs every night, leaving before dawn. On the 29th day of our separation, Kevin had an accident. While inspecting a factory, he was crushed under falling goods and was rushed to the hospital, covered in blood. More seriously, his right calf was crushed, leaving it mangled and unrecognizable. The doctor said the leg couldn't be saved and that amputation was necessary to save his life. After a moment of hesitation, his father made the decision: amputate. I signed the consent forms for the surgery. After the operation, Kevin was moved to the ICU, and 3 days later, he was out of danger and transferred to a regular ward. I visited him every day, and in the adjacent bed lay another injured man. He and his wife seemed to have a wonderful relationship, their banter sweet and lighthearted. Next to them, Kevin and I barely spoke, two stark contrasts. Once, our relationship was just as sweet. Kevin had once asked the neighboring patient, "How long have you been married?" 9 years, the man replied, counting on his fingers, smiling proudly. But if you count from when we started dating, it's been 13 years. I stood outside the door, not entering, when I heard Kevin say enviously, "That's nice." A few days later, the man was discharged, leaving Kevin alone in the ward. When it was time for a dressing change, Kevin cried out in pain, trying to hide his face under the covers, his voice hoarse as he self-deprecatingly said, "Fanny, is this what you call a curse coming true?" I sincerely replied, "No, it's not. How could it be? That's your vow, not a curse on yourself." Kevin spent the new year in the hospital. I didn't visit him on New Year's Eve. I had a reunion dinner with my family and went out with friends to celebrate, enjoying fireworks and drinks all night. Just after I posted about the fireworks on social media, Kevin messaged me, "Are you coming to the hospital?" I didn't reply, and after a moment, he sent another message, "The fireworks are beautiful." He wanted to ask who I was with, but he didn't dare. I had no intention of telling him. I simply replied, "Happy New Year." Just past midnight, Noah messaged me, "Happy New Year." "Happy New Year." I replied, and transferred him some money, but he returned it. All the previous amounts I had sent him came back as well. This guy knows how to talk, just save it for me. I couldn't help but chuckle. On New Year's Eve, I didn't visit Kevin. I didn't go on the first, second, or third day of the new year either. Until his parents called me, with his mother crying, pleading, "Fanny, please come see Kevin, his wound is infected and he's burning up. He's been mumbling your name." By the time I got to the hospital, Kevin's condition had stabilized, and he was sleeping deeply among the pillows and blankets. I didn't want to wake him, so I stood for a moment, planning to leave. Just as I turned to go, he suddenly grasped my hand, "Fanny. Please don't go, stay with me." He no longer concealed his vulnerability, struggling to sit up and hold me tightly. I reached up to smooth his hair before pushing him away gently. "Kevin, it's a new year, let's start fresh and get better." After a pause, I continued, "Let's get a divorce." The smile he had just raised faltered at the corners of his mouth. He closed his eyes, and a look of humility and despair washed over his face. "Can't you at least feel sorry for me and not go through with it?" I was silent for a long time, and he begged, "Fanny. It's impossible, Kevin. I can't get past this." I raised my hand to touch his face. "I can't. Claire had a point. Every night I lay next to you. Every time you hold me or kiss me, I can't help but think about how you've done those intimate things with other women. Once there's a first time, will there be a second?" "Don't rush to respond." I placed my hand over his lips. "Jealousy and suspicion will prevent me from ever truly trusting you again. Is this the marriage you want? I've seen other men, and they're younger, handsomer, and more charming than you. They're truly captivating." He panicked. "Fanny, that's not the same. He's just pretending to win you over." I interrupted him. "I'm drawn to fresh faces, to youth and beauty." "No," Kevin hurried to defend me, "that's just a fleeting infatuation, it's not love." After a moment, I continued, "When you're with someone for a long time, feelings can fade, and resisting temptation from the outside world becomes difficult. But what keeps me rational, what ensures my loyalty to this marriage isn't the marriage certificate, but my love for you. Kevin, what I can't forgive you for, aside from your betrayal, is your deception." He let go, defeated, like a trapped beast. I asked him, "We can avoid divorce, but I won't be able to maintain absolute loyalty and trust moving forward. I won't be completely faithful to this marriage. Can you accept that?" "Fanny, I just made one mistake." He was filled with frustration. "Why can't you forgive me? Even after the divorce, if you choose another man, if you choose that guy, do you really believe he won't cheat on you?" I replied calmly, "All men in the world can cheat and betray, except for my man. If one makes a mistake, another can be chosen. I went against my wild nature and my tendency to be fickle, choosing to remain faithful in body and soul to you. For love to exist, it must be reciprocated with the same loyalty from you. To me, the most precious thing about Kevin is that I love him, not that he's irreplaceable." Claire didn't understand, and neither did he. Until I left, Kevin didn't say another word. A month later, after he was discharged from the hospital, we sat together peacefully as we settled all our property distribution in front of a lawyer and signed the divorce agreement. After leaving the civil affairs office with the divorce certificate, Kevin, sitting in his wheelchair, asked me, "Fanny, can you hug me one more time?" I leaned down to give him a hug. Kevin tightened his arms around me from behind, warm tears falling onto my neck. Choking back his emotions, he said, "I regret it so much. I really, really regret it. There's no remedy for regret in this world." After the divorce, I packed my bags and set off on a new journey. After wandering for more than half a year, I ran into someone I knew at the last stop. While having afternoon tea, I looked out through the glass and saw a person stop in front of me. He stood outside in the rain, tapping on the glass, mouthing, "Can I share a table with you?" I burst into laughter and gestured for him to come in. The end.